Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, it's funny, we're always told consistency is key, right? Stick to your guns. But today, we're diving into something kind of counterintuitive. The idea that maybe, just maybe, being right more often means changing your mind a lot.
Yeah, it's a real paradigm shift. We're looking at Adam Grant's work, Think Again. The subtitle says it all, really. The power of knowing what you don't know.
Yeah.
Our mission, well, it's to unpack that, to figure out how rethinking actually helps you make better decisions, communicate effectively, and just, grow, especially now when things change so fast.
And Grant's got the credentials. Wharton professor, organizational psychologist. This isn't just like feel-good advice. It's based on some serious research into why smart people and even whole companies sometimes just fail.
Right. And often the reason boils down to this. They stopped rethinking. They got stuck.
Which brings us straight to a really core distinction in the material, how we usually define intelligence.
We tend to think of intelligence as, the ability to think and learn. Basic cognitive skill. But Grant pushes further. He says wisdom. Wisdom is different. It's the ability to rethink and, crucially, to unlearn.
Rethink and unlearn, that really flips the script, doesn't it? We focus so much on piling up knowledge, getting that power.
Exactly. And we forget that maybe the most important skill is recognizing when our knowledge is actually wrong or just obsolete.
It reminds me of that quote right near the start of his book. Something like, if knowledge is power, knowing what we don't know is wisdom.
That's the one. It suggests the smartest move you can make is admitting you don't know everything. Because, well, that's the starting point for any real growth.
Okay, so if rethinking is the superpower, why are we generally so, bad at it?
Because a lot of the time, we're not really thinking open-mindedly. We're defaulting into these sort of defensive postures. Grant identifies three main ones that really block rethinking. He calls them the PPC mindsets.
PPC mindsets. Okay, let's break those down. I imagine the first one is pretty common. The preacher. Spot on. That's when we're absolutely convinced we've got the truth. Our beliefs feel sacred, almost. So all our mental energy goes into, promoting our viewpoint and batting away anything that contradicts it. Doubt. No room for doubt. The sermon is already written.
And right alongside the preacher, you often find the prosecutor. Is that right?
Yep. That kicks in when someone challenges us. Our instinct isn't to understand their point. It's to find all the flaws in their argument.
Like you're in court, trying to win the case.
Yeah.
Not learn anything new.
Exactly. You're just focused on dismantling the opposition. Winning over the jury, so to speak.
Okay, preacher, prosecutor. And the third one is the politician. This one sounds maybe a bit more subtle.
It can be. The politician isn't really concerned with what's true or false. They're campaigning. They want approval, consensus. So if the audience shifts, their views might conveniently shift too. It's about popularity, not accuracy.
Wow. So preacher, prosecutor, politician, if you're stuck in any of those, you're basically trapped. That's how the source puts it, trapped in the prison cell of our own dogma. The only way out, the ideal mode, is to adopt the mindset of the scientist.
Right. Thinking like a scientist. But that's not just about lab coats and data, is it? It's more about how you treat your own ideas.
Precisely. It's about treating your own strongest beliefs like hypotheses. Provisional theories to be tested, not treasures to be guarded.
So you're actively looking for evidence that might prove you wrong, not just confirmation.
Yes, that's the key. Actively open-minded. Searching for reasons to revise your view based on new data. That's how science progresses, and it's how we should progress mentally.
Okay, but that requires something pretty fundamental, doesn't it? What the sources call intellectual humility, which sounds, humble.
Yeah, but it's often misunderstood. It's not about lacking confidence. Grant defines it as being grounded. It's really about recognizing deep down that your knowledge is incomplete, that you're fallible. We all are.
And that awareness, that's what opens the door.
It opens the door to doubt. And doubt isn't a weakness here. It's the engine. It fuels curiosity. It makes you want to learn more.
So you shift from trying to prove you're right to trying to improve your understanding.
Exactly. And the ideal state, the sweet spot Grant identifies, is confident humility.
Confident humility. Okay, explain that a bit more.
It means you still believe in your ability to learn and figure things out. That's the confidence part. But you combine it with the humility to know that your current understanding is definitely flawed or incomplete in some way. It's like saying, I'm smart enough to learn, but I'm almost certainly wrong about something right now.
That sounds powerful. But okay, let's say you adopt this scientist mindset. You're ready to test your hypotheses. Then what? You run straight into your own brain's defenses.
Oh, absolutely. The psychological barriers kick in hard. And maybe the biggest one is something Grant calls the identity trap.
Ah, yeah. This feels really familiar. Like if my views on, say, politics or economics are part of who I am.
Then challenging those views feels like a personal attack. It's not just the idea that's wrong, it's me.
Right.
So the sources stress this. You have to detach your opinions from your identity. Your identity should be rooted in values like curiosity, flexibility, the willingness to learn,
Right.
not in specific beliefs.
So instead of I'm someone who believes X, it's I value figuring things out, even if it means changing my mind about X.
Exactly. But it's tough because our brains fight against that. We've got this internal mechanism, the totalitarian ego.
The totalitarian ego? Sounds ominous.
It kind of is. Think of it like an inner dictator whose main job is protecting your self-image. It filters reality. It actively screens out information that threatens your ego or your cherished beliefs, and it feeds you, comforting lies to keep you feeling good about yourself and your worldview.
And when that kind of ego-driven filtering happens at like a company level, that leads to cognitive entrenchment.
Yes, and it can be absolutely disastrous for organizations. It's when a company gets so locked into an old way of doing things, maybe something that used to work really well.
Yeah, that they just can't see the need to change, even when the writing's on the wall. Like the BlackBerry example, right?
It's a classic case. They were so committed to the physical keyboard. That was their identity, their edge. And that commitment, that entrenchment, blinded them. They filtered out the signals, the iPhone, the rise of touch screens, because it threatened their core belief about what made them successful. Until, well, it was too late.
Their past success literally prevented future success because they couldn't rethink.
And here's a really interesting twist from the sources. Sometimes having a high IQ can actually make this worse.
Wait, really? Being smarter makes it harder to rethink. How does that work?
Well, it seems highly intelligent people can be incredibly good at rationalizing. They use their brain power to build really elaborate justifications for their existing beliefs. Instead of using that intelligence to question themselves, they use it to build stronger defenses around potentially flawed ideas.
Wow. Okay, so smart people can get trapped. What about, well, the other end of the spectrum? The sources mention the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yes, the climb up Mount Stupid, as it's sometimes called. This is the flip side. People with low competence in a certain area often have wildly high confidence in their ability.
Because they don't know enough to even realize what they don't know.
Precisely. And when you pair that ignorance with absolute conviction, Grant has a blunt term for it: arrogance.
Yeah.
The sources define it as arrogance is ignorance plus conviction.
Okay, conviction. That brings up another point.
Right.
We admire persistence, right? Grit. But that can go wrong too, this escalation of commitment idea.
Oh, massively wrong. This is a huge trap. It's when you keep pouring resources, time, money, emotion into something that's clearly failing just because you've already invested so much.
The sunk cost fallacy, basically. You feel like you can't quit because of all the effort you've already put in.
Exactly. And grit becomes an excuse for foolish stubbornness. We're told winners never quit. But Grant flips that. He says, sometimes the best kind of grit is gritting our teeth and turning around.
Knowing when to cut your losses and change direction, that's actually a form of strength, a form of rethinking.
It's maybe the ultimate expression of it. It takes real humility and detachment.
Okay, so we've covered rethinking within ourselves. What about trying to change other people's minds? How does this apply when we disagree or debate? The sources mention arguing about how, not why. What does that mean?
It's a strategy to keep conflict productive, not destructive. See, conflict itself isn't bad. Healthy disagreement is how ideas get better. But it turns toxic when we start attacking the fundamental why the person's core values or identity. That just triggers the preacher or prosecutor instantly.
Right, so instead you focus on the how, the mechanics, the logistics, the practicalities.
Yeah, keep it concrete. Focus on the methods or the implementation. It stays in the realm of problem solving rather than becoming a battle of identities.
Makes sense. And what about actually trying to persuade someone? Any tips from the sources there?
A couple key things. First, less is more. Don't just unload every single argument you can think of.
Why not? Seems like more reasons would be better.
Because throwing 10 weak points just gives the other person 10 easy targets. The sources say, focus on your few strongest arguments. And, maybe counterintuitively, address the best version of their argument, not the weakest.
Okay. But the most powerful technique mentioned seems to be just asking questions.
Absolutely. This is huge. It draws on motivational interviewing techniques. You're not lecturing, You're not prosecuting. You ask genuine, open-ended questions that guide the other person to examine their own thinking, their own motivations. It helps them find their own reasons for potentially changing their mind.
So they arrive at the conclusion themselves, which makes it much more likely to stick.
Exactly. It lowers their defenses.
Yeah.
Because you're not attacking, you're exploring together.
And this questioning approach, it seems really vital for bridging divides, tackling prejudice.
Definitely. It pushes us past stereotypes. The sources bring up the amazing example of Daryl David.
Oh, the musician who talks to KKK members?
That's him. He sits down, has genuine conversations, asks questions, finds common ground, and he's convinced dozens of members to actually leave the Klan just through dialogue and curiosity.
It's incredible proof that this kind of interpersonal rethinking can achieve massive shifts.
And these principles don't just apply one-on-one. They scale up to groups, to organizational culture. Grant makes a key distinction here between performance cultures and learning cultures.
Performance cultures, I guess they focus purely on results, hitting the targets.
Right. Which sounds good, but it often creates a climate of fear. People hide mistakes, they don't speak up, they don't challenge the status quo because they're afraid of looking bad or getting punished.
Whereas a learning culture
Prioritizes psychological safety. It makes it okay to admit errors, to ask dumb questions, to challenge assumptions. Rethinking isn't just allowed, it's encouraged. It's seen as necessary for improvement.
And how do you support that? The sources mentioned process accountability.
Yeah, this is critical. Instead of just judging a decision based on whether the outcome was good or bad, which can be down to luck, frankly, you evaluate the process that led to the decision.
So did the team consider alternatives? Did they seek out dissenting views? Was the thinking rigorous, even if the result wasn't perfect?
Exactly. If the process was sound, even a failure becomes a valuable learning opportunity, not something to be swept under the rug.
Okay, so let's try and pull all these threads together. We've got the scientist mindset, confident humility, detaching identity, asking questions, fostering learning cultures. It really boils down to this. Rethinking isn't just some nice-to-have skill. It seems absolutely essential for growth, for wisdom, for navigating, well, everything. Being willing to be wrong is actually a strength.
It truly is. And maybe the final, most provocative application of this is turning that scientific lens onto your own life. Grant challenges that age-old question, what do you want to be when you grow up? He argues it pushes us towards identity foreclosure, locking ourselves into a single path too early.
So you define yourself by a job title or plan made years ago, and you stop questioning if it's still right.
Precisely. Instead of asking what you want to be, maybe the better ongoing question is who are you becoming? And is your current life aligned with that evolving self?
Which leads us, I think, to a final thought for you, the listener.
Yeah. Just like you'd rigorously test a scientific hypothesis, apply that same rigor to your life design. The sources suggest doing periodic life checkups. Maybe once or twice a year. Deliberately pause. Step back. Ask yourself honestly, is my career path still fulfilling? Are my key relationships aligned with my values? Are my goals still my goals? Or are you just clinging to an old hypothesis about yourself, an identity that maybe you should have rethought scientifically a while ago? That regular, structured rethinking of your own life plan, that might just be the ultimate path to wisdom.